situation that I've never had before. It's impossible, but still I want it more. If you fight for me, like I fight for you. If you fight for me, I will fight for you.
Fala galera, bem-vindos a mais um episódio de Sonoridades. O episódio de hoje é com Björn Strid. Se conhece metalcore, principalmente vindo lá da Escandinávia, deve ter ouvido falar do Soilwork. Björn é vocalista do Soilwork e tem um projeto paralelo muito diferente, voltado para AOR dos anos 80, aquela pegada meio Miami Vice, chamado Night Flight Orchestra. E é sobre o Night Flight Orchestra que a gente conversou. A banda veio para o Summer Breeze, como você também deve estar sabendo, fez um show irretocável, um dos melhores shows do festival, na minha modesta opinião, e que a gente está na torcida para voltar para outras edições, um show solo por aqui. Você vai conferir um pouquinho de imagens do show também, e o papo foi um pouquinho antes de vir para o Brasil, então tem muita coisa relacionada ao que eles fariam no show, entre outras curiosidades. Curtam, comentem, compartilhem, esperem que vem mais episódios bons pela frente. A gente se vê.
Coming to Latin America with Night Flight Orchestra is something that I never, expected to happen. So it's amazing, really.
Okay.
It's
Cool.
definitely a dream.
The first question is obviously is about this tour
Yeah.
here in South America, the first time of Night Flight Orchestra in a huge festival. So what are your expectations?
Well, like you mentioned, it's a big festival. We obviously played Summer Breeze in Germany a bunch of times before, at least with Soilwork. I don't think we played it with Night Flight Orchestra, but yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see how the Brazilian edition is going to be. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic, and a lot of great bands too. So it should be it should be a great festival.
And what can you spoil about the set list?
Well, I mean, I used to talk about, Soilwork. It's always hard to, because we have so many albums out, it's hard to find the perfect set list. And now we're kind of there with Night Flight too. We have a bunch of records. So, but I think most of the albums are represented in the set list, and it's a perfect set list for a party. And I'm sure people will, if they don't dance from the start, I'm sure it's going to happen in the end. So yeah.
Think a new sensation, but you know the state I'm in. You're the rehabilitation. If you'd only let me in, how long
Well, we played here before with Soilwork in Brazil. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of aware that you're a huge star here in Brazil.
Yeah. Okay.
So how do you
Wow,
deal with
yeah.
this?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's been a while too. I think when did we play with Soilwork? Was it 2016 or 17?
I think it was 17, I think.
Yeah, and that's like 7 years ago. How is that even possible? I don't know what happened, but yeah. Anyways, good to be back.
It's also good to have you here back too.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
In 2021, we released Aromatic 2, the second
Yeah.
part, a huge story. So how do you see this concept and this album? Because it was a blast. I mean, everybody keeps talking about this album 3 years later. So how do you see that?
Well, it's definitely an album that we're very, very proud of, and it's when you release records, you listen to them a lot, for the first months, and then you kind of let it go and you only play them live. But this is an album I always come back to and listen to, and it feels like I even though I'm part of the band, I discover new details every time I listen to it. And I think it's a very diverse album, but all the songs make sense together, So I think it's it's very special, and you know, having Aromantic 1 and 2, I think they're what do you say, like sort of siblings, you know, and they really fit together, and there's some really amazing stuff that I'm very proud of, and the whole band, and you know, it's definitely something that translates live in a very good way as well. So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
And what is most interesting about Aromantic 2, it was released during a pandemic, also the first one,
Yeah.
the pandemic, and was the album that a lot of people get into the heart because it was kind of a music for hope, for salvation, because everybody starts
Yeah.
dancing and film dancing, and oh, you have to see this, you have to listen to this band, and
Mm.
everybody got to know Night Flight Orchestra during the
Yeah.
pandemic. So how do you see these facts? I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's fantastic, you know, and like you said, it became sort of like a remedy, you know, for a lot of people, and it's very uplifting music, you know, not saying that it's just like happy disco all the time, because I think it's very multi-layered music, you know, and but the message is very uplifting, I would say, in general, you know, even though it speaks also about darker things, but it's very uplifting, and I think that played a big role during the pandemic as well, and a lot of people did reach out that and told me that these albums have meant a lot, you know, and like you mentioned, Aromantic 1 came out, I think that was that in sometime in 20, I guess. Or was
yes.
it late 19? I can't remember. But anyways, we were just gonna embark on our on the first tour for Aromantic 1. That's when COVID happened, you know, and we still went out there because nobody knew what was going on, you know, and so we did 1 week in Europe, and I think we came to Spain. We played Barcelona and Madrid, and that's when we heard that they're gonna close down Spain. They're gonna you know, shut the borders, and same in France. It's like, okay, I think it's time to go home. So it was extremely depressing for everyone. You know, it was such an anticlimax releasing a new album. I'm sure a lot of, I mean, we were definitely not the only ones. A lot of bands were in the same situation, but yeah, it was a terrible situation, because it's, you know, you're so excited about, you know, taking this album out on the road and play it in front of the fans, and then didn't happen, and then it's like, okay, what are we going to do now? You know, it's like, we can't play this album, and this album is going to die by itself. But I think a lot of people started listening and streaming the album, you know, and then, but at the same time, it's like, okay, if we're not going to be able to go out and play live, we might as well do another Aromantic, because we're not done with the Aromantic concept. So we wanted to extend the Aromantic sort of concept, and that's why we did the second one as well. So yeah, it was a real special time, and you know, let's hope it doesn't happen again, you know, with these. But you know, unfortunately, yeah, who knows? Knock knock knock.
And an interesting fact about Aromantic 2, it was that this album became one of the most successful albums on the digital music here in Brazil.
Really?
Yeah, it became one of the most streamed on platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, from kind of new music, from kind of AOR, like hard
Yeah.
rock, 80 songs. People kind of engaged with
Wow, fantastic.
yeah, which leads me to the
Great.
next question. How do you see this digital music? Nowadays we have artificial intelligence that became
Yeah.
to write music, start to write music, create
Hmm.
videos, enhance a lot of music. And on the other hand, we have vinyl, the returning of cassettes. So how do you see
Yeah.
this new musical world that comes?
Yeah. What a mess. Seriously, it's such a jungle, you know, and it's really hard to sort of be objective about this whole thing, because you never know what's going to happen around the next corner, because everything is going so quickly, you know. And I mean, AI can be a great tool. I'm sure most people say this, but it's like, it can be a great tool if you use it in the right way. But I doubt it's going to replace, you know, humans completely when it comes to composing music, because I've listened to a lot of AI made music, and to me it's super obvious that this is not human. You know, it sounds like a bad MP3 to me, all of it. But I'm sure that's going to improve as well. But I don't know. Of course, my hopes are that, you know, there's never, it's never going to be a situation where it can replace humans completely. You know, it's yeah, I don't think it's going to work. But of course, it's very impressive, you know, and it's a great tool, and I think you can use it in many great ways. So it's all about balance, I guess. But then, like you said, and then we have all these retro things coming back. It's like vinyl. Everybody's talking about vinyl, and vinyl is selling just as much as it did. It hasn't sold this much since like 1988 or something like that, you know. So it's really cool, you know, and it seems like kids are discovering vinyl as well. So we live in a very weird time where we're looking back, you know. It's all, and we get all nostalgic, but at the same time we have AI that's taking over, and that's the future. So it's weird. It's kind of hard to see clear in all of this, but I guess you just gotta sort of roll with it and try to stay sane, you know. Yeah.
I think sometimes we live in the Terminator 2, the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It feels like it.
Yeah. And what is good about Night Flight Orchestra is kind of the returning of the good vibe music.
Yeah.
You know, this kind of good vibe music. Have you seen the some people try to create some Miami Vice videos with Night Flight Orchestra songs? Have you seen any
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen, I think there's been like Jean-Claude Van Damme videos as well with Night Flight soundtrack. People do all kinds of stuff with our music, and I think that's definitely a compliment, because it really confirms that, you know, it's very cinematic music that we're releasing, you know. And that was one of our sort of guidelines when we started this band, that we wanted to create music that makes you feel like you're in motion, you know, and or like a sort of like a soundtrack to movies even, you know. So it's yeah, I think that's the biggest compliment you can get when people start to, like you mentioned, Miami Vice clips and stuff like that, you know. And yeah, I've seen a lot of different ones, you know. One of my absolute favorite soundtracks is from Risky Business by Tangerine Dream. You know, Tom Cruise, one of his first roles, and the soundtrack for that movie is just amazing. And I think that's something that always inspires me, even though that's more electronic music. But the vibe and how it feels like you're in motion when you listen to it, I think that's a big inspiration.
To talk about inspirations, how does it feel to be inspiration for this new generation of bands, singers, and composers?
Well, I guess, you know, we started something quite different and unique, even though we sort of wear our inspirations and influences on our sleeves. You know, it's quite obvious, but I think we've also managed to do something quite unique in the end. You know, we definitely put our own touch to it, and somehow, even though it's full of nostalgia, it was also important for us to make sense today, you know, that we're moving forward. And I think it's also a way of producing and writing and playing that's been lost, you know. And especially, I mean, my favorite era is, you know, maybe like 77 to 83. That's like the magical years of music. But that doesn't mean that I want to how can I say, copy that sound you completely, you know. I want to take that, like the good things and the way of playing and writing songs and singing everything, but sort of make it into our own as well. And I believe we have done that in many ways. And if we manage to inspire other bands along the way, I mean, that's fantastic, and hopefully some younger people too, you know, because I think it's a very organic way of producing music and writing music, and compared to a lot of stuff that you hear today, and a lot of AOR that you hear today as well. It's very sort of, it's like triggered drums and quite plastic in my ears, and not so organic, you know. But we're trying to, you know, carry that torch for true AOR, and I'm sure you've seen the shirts that says "Death to False AOR" as well. I don't know if you've seen that those T-shirts, but it's yeah, obviously we're making fun of that whole the Manowar thing, but it is, we take it very seriously, even though we also have a tongue-in-cheek concept. I think it's a great balance, and we aim to bring a really good show that can be, you know, and music that can be very inspiring, you know, in many ways.
In the day when all those feelings arrive, left alone at my own device. Next to me, I see a dream that just died, trying to gaze into the sky. Now I know that I could, and you thought that I should. I make it for love, and it's so understood. It's not what it seems, but you know it's a fact. You get what you give when your heart is intact. I even could have died for you. I would have put the rings in the desert too. The road is wide open like a book. My Saturday night is my dream and my vice.
Since you talk about your career, which song do you think can encapsulate Night Flight Orchestra? If you have to present someone that lives on Mars and doesn't know about Night Flight Orchestra, which song or which album you would present to him, and why?
Wow. I mean, one of my absolute favorite songs that sort of captures a lot what we're about. It's "Last of the Independent Romantics." That it's kind of like a very long and epic song that has so many elements that sort of showcases what we're all about. But like picking one album, it's tough. I mean, I would say, I mean, Aromantic 2 is a great introduction, I think, and maybe you should start there and then go backwards, you know, instead of starting with the first album. Hard to say, but if I have to pick a song, I would say it's "Last of the Independent Romantics."
We talk about the Romantics too, and I forgot to ask you this: how were the production of this album, Aromantic 2? It was the same from Aromantic 1. The songs were recorded at the same time.
No, not at the same time. These were, because I mean, we didn't know that COVID was coming, so we didn't plan to have Aromantic 2. That just came like a natural step after we realized that we were going to be off the road for, you know, a long time. So but the production, I mean, we always have recording sessions even when there's no album planned, we like to get together and book like a long weekend in a Nordic Sound Lab in Sweden, where we record most of our stuff. And it's like an old school studio with a real desk and, you know, the whole, and we love being there for a long weekend and being creative and drink together and cook together and record music. It's a beautiful time. And I think you can hear that too, that we're having so much fun, but we're also very focused.
Okay, it's a great album. You can see and heard these good times that I had this
Yeah,
album.
yeah.
And what are the future plans for Night Flight Orchestra and your career?
Well, we're currently working on a new album, and it's shaping up very, very nicely. And we, I think we're gonna release it either in the end of this year or beginning of next, very beginning of next in that case. So yeah, it's gonna be a long wait, but it's gonna be something fantastic.
Yeah,
For sure.
Tell me, is it wrong? Now I'm in the dark, waiting for the light to change. Glancing at the stars, maybe my own heart. Is it time to break the chains? Now I'm in the dark, making my own mark, waiting for the world to quake. Tell me, is it wrong? Now I'm in the dark, waiting for the light to change.
you had to give an advice to the younger self, your younger version, what should be and why, and what do you think your younger version should advise you in this version nowadays? What do you think should be?
It's always the toughest question, but I would say, like, musically, I think I wish I would have tried. I mean, I don't regret anything. I really don't, because I mean, I started Soilwork when I was like 16 years old, you know, and it's still around, which is fantastic. But it took me a while before I dared to explore sort of clean vocals in sort of like, you know, in a different way. I mean, I did do that with Soilwork as well, but I think I should have explored, dared to do maybe more, you know, so I think that's because I was so excited about just being a singer, because I had no plans of becoming a singer. I was a guitarist, but then there was something that tickled my interest and that seemed exciting about, you know, being a singer. And then I started doing screamy vocals, like, wow, that's crazy. Like, I can't believe that's coming out of my mouth, you know. And then I got so excited about that. But as the years went by, I started to develop my vocals. But I also wish I maybe would have started sort of like a side project at an earlier stage, doing something completely different. Because I think Soilwork has become better because I started Night Flight Orchestra as well. Because now I feel like I have the best of both worlds, you know. So I really get to channel all my emotions and influences with these two bands. So I guess that's what I would have said. There's probably a bunch of more things I would have, but that's what I can come up with right now.
Okay. Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Björn. Hope to see you here in Summer Breeze.
Yes, I'm looking forward, and thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.